Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. I'm your host, Brett Ridgway, and excited to have as my guest today, retired Brigadier General Twanda Young. She's a widely recognized leader, coach, author, and speaker. She's a decorated veteran with over 3 decades of service. Twanda aims to empower others through leadership development, conflict management, and career coaching. As a sought-after speaker, she inspires audiences at prestigious institutions and leadership conferences, including the Leadership Experience Tour. She founded LT3 Leads to guide inspiring speakers. A graduate-level professor, her dedication extends to education with a focus on leadership excellence. Her extensive list of military honors is highlighted by the Distinguished Service Medal. Outside the military, her military and professional achievements, Twanda's impact has been recognized through the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and the inclusion of her autobiography into the Library of Congress collection, cementing her legacy as a trailblazer in leadership and empowerment. Welcome, retired Brigadier General Twanda Young, to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Well, it is great to be here with you, Brett. Thank you for having me.
All right, so 30 plus years in the military. I have a twin sister who was 27 years Air Force, so you beat her by a few years. But she only made it to colonel. So she was an underachiever compared to you, apparently.
No, she was not. Anyone who has served has achieved. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So first of all, thank you for your service. But what year did you finally retire from the military, and what prompted you to decide to get into the field of public speaking as a follow-up to your military career?
Well, I retired in 2020,
Okay.
and we retired here in Charlotte. And I decided, really, after getting out, having done speaking, of course, in the military for well over 20 years, not getting paid, if you will, like I'm doing now,
Right.
I decided that there was still a yearn to share value. And I found that this was a way to continue doing it and to continuing doing something that I enjoyed doing, which is sharing with people. And kept moving forward in that vein. And here we are today, still moving forward, still pouring out and sharing value.
All right. Well, very good. So obviously in the military, when you were doing your speaking, you had a captive audience. They had to be there to listen to what you had to say. Where sometimes in the speaking world now, the audience is there on their own accord, maybe. So do you see any difference, Twanda, in speaking before a group that has to be there and is obligated to listen to you versus a group that's there voluntarily?
I would say yes and no. The yes part is yes, they were captivated in that they had to be there. They had to listen to me to make sure that they got the information that I was sharing, and so that they could do what I expected them to do and follow along to ensure we met the mission. But I would say no, in the sense that an audience, whether they're because they want to or they're because they're being told to be there, the speaker still has certain requirements that we must do. And those requirements are that we have to still educate, we still have to entertain, we still have to encourage throughout that entire engagement, regardless of the audience that you have in front of you. And it's much easier, I would say, to the point to do if they're made to be there to do those things, but it's still a requirement for us to do that, to be a good speaker and to make sure that your message is getting across and that you're sharing the value you need to share.
Now, I assume that you primarily consider yourself to be a keynote speaker. Is that correct?
I do.
All right. So, when you're doing a keynote speech, what kind of preparation or homework do you typically do in advance to make sure that your message can hit home as best as possible with that particular audience?
Well, first, I want to know what is the theme of the engagement that I'm going to. What is the intent, and what is it that they're trying to go after as far as the value that they want to be brought in that particular time frame that I'm given, whether that's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 60 minutes. And then from there, it's doing a little bit of research about previous events that have happened, previous persons that have spoken in that space. And then I meditate. I honestly meditate. I read up on different leadership. Particularly for me, it's most talking that I do and presentations that I give are centered around leadership or conflict management, because that's my area of emphasis. And I do make sure that I'm relevant and that the information that I'm going to share is something that is going to maybe make the audience a little uncomfortable to gain their attention. But at the same time, that there's some takeaways, because it's, time for us is a resource that is valuable that you can't get back, right? So if you're sitting there listening to what I have to share, I want to make sure that it brings some impact to you, that you walk away with at least one nugget that you can say, that made me think, or, I didn't see it that way. So you got to put in the work. You got to make sure that you are bringing relevant information that is going to pull at the heartstrings of the audience, but also provide them with some value to take away, which means that you as a speaker, you got to do your homework. You got to make sure that you're ready, that you are mentally and physically ready to give the best that you can give in that time and in that space. So I make sure I get rest to be as best prepared for the different events that I do.
All right. So, great points. Prompts a number of questions in my mind. So, first of all,
Go for it. Go for it.
you mentioned different lengths of speeches or whatever. So, when you put together your initial signature speech, let's call it,
Mm-hmm.
what length of speech did you target for? And then how do you determine to best make that modular so you can lengthen it or shorten it depending on the amount of time that you have? So kind of a two-part question there. So if somebody's a new speaker, how long should they prepare a signature speech for as their base point?
Well, in the Army, they teach us the 3 B's: be brief, be kind, and be gone to your seat very quickly. All right. So for me, my mantra is a 20-minute speech. A
Okay.
20-minute speech you can take and you can change that story in different context forums, depending upon who you're talking to an 8-minute speech, to a 10-minute speech, to a 15-minute speech. You can even lengthen it if necessary to a 30 or 45-minute engagement. But normally, a good solid speech preparing is about a 20-minute length speech.
Okay.
And in doing so, you're making sure that you are still doing those 3 E's I talked about. That is still entertaining, it's still encouraging, and it's still educating in all of that time that you have.
All right. So give me your best advice for how to quickly build rapport with a new audience.
You got to pull them in. You got to talk about something. I'll give you an example. One of my signature speeches is C4, camouflage to clarity, turning conflict into collaboration. And I start out that particular speech with talking about a conflict that my husband and I have had, a conflict about leaving the toilet seat up. It engages them. Well, it is a topic, though, that everyone in the audience has had some semblance of familiarity with, whether they have a son, whether they have a husband, whether they have a significant other. Somebody has had that kind of conversation. So starting it off with something that is entertaining, but familiar, and yet shocking that I would share that in that moment, grabs the attention. That's how I start off in most of my engagements.
All right. So when you give a speech, how do you measure whether that speech has been successful or not?
Well, two things for me. I mean, everyone has their own measurement sticks, but for me, it is whether I felt I have internally done my best. Did I give and leave all on the stage in my preparation prior to, and then giving the presentation? And then afterwards, you'll be able to tell whether it resonated with people, because they're not going to be shy in coming up and talking to you and sharing with you what they took away with what you just shared, whether it provided any value. And if it provided some value, and if you did extremely well, someone else will ask, are you available to come and speak at my engagement? Or can you share a little bit more? I know you only had a short, brief time there. They'll want to carry on a longer conversation with you about maybe one of the nuggets you shared in your presentation to get more value out of what you shared. So those kind of tangible things, you will know whether you did well or not. For me as well, my husband is my best accountability partner and my best critic, although he's a little biased, but he is my best critic. We always do what we call an AAR, as we call an after action review, as they say in the Army. And we talk about how well did I do? How well did I do? Did I hit the points that I wanted to hit in what I was sharing? And we honestly look at it in the brass tacks of how did I do? And you got to be able to really critique yourself. And sometimes that's not easy. I will tell you, early on when I started out, I was like, no, I did this. No, I hit this point. And he was like, no, you didn't. You didn't. You were talking so fast that you missed that point. You didn't really hit it. So you got to be able to critique yourself and face reality when you've done well and when you haven't done well, the areas that you need to improve upon. And the key thing is always understanding that we can always do better. Always do better.
So when you talk about key points, Twanda, give me your 3 biggest keys for being successful as a keynote speaker.
I would say one of the first keys is I desire to add value in any setting that I'm in when I'm speaking. Number 2, in adding value, I'm willing to put in the work, to do the due diligence to make sure that what I'm sharing is relevant. And number 3, I am humble enough to know that I don't have all the answers, but the answers that I do have and that I do share and the solutions that I do give, I've tried them myself, so I know that they work.
All right, very good. So I have a few other questions I want to ask you, but before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
The things that you said there, and the first one is When you are giving a presentation and something happens that was unexpected, how do you prepare yourself for the unexpected?
Yeah, I've had that happen many times. Let's just say it. I've had that happen many times. I have been on stage thinking that I had the perfect presentation, and I forgot all that I was going to say because someone moved or something happened, and it just threw me off, Brett. It just threw me off. And the rhythm that I was going in it just got discombobulated. I was happy that I knew my information well enough that I was able to pivot. And I was able to pivot well enough that my husband knew because I had given him the speech many times. So he knew what was happening, but the audience did not know what was happening. But I just felt so deflated after that moment of that I didn't give it my all because I wasn't perfect in the moment. And what that taught me is there is no perfect speech. There is no perfect presentation.
Well,
You
when we're up there and we have a brief lapse of memory during a speech, and it might be 2 seconds. Well, it seems like 20 or 30 seconds to us, but it's just a
yeah,
brief blip to the audience, and they won't even notice it. But we're beating ourselves up for forgetting something for 2 seconds. It's just crazy. But
yes, we do. We do. And for me, I'm the worst. I am my worst critic. That I not only beat myself up on while I'm in it, it's afterwards that where I really get the hammer out and start nugging away of why did you could have done this and why didn't you do this, kind of thing. But the reality is that as you said, there is no perfect speech. It is really just giving it your best and giving it your all and making sure that you're providing value and you're pouring into people and that they're
right, so
getting.
are you a PowerPoint person or not?
I'm both. I'm both. I can do with PowerPoint and I can do without PowerPoint.
So which do you prefer and why?
Well, it depends on the setting. It really, if I'm in front of college students, because I speak and lecture at universities,
Mhm.
they need something to grab their attention, keep their attention, I would say. And in doing that, throwing a slide up that has something moving, has something that's coming, drawing out at them to bring my point across, tends to help. But not too much of that because I want them to hear the words that I'm saying and to be drawn into what I'm sharing. If I am doing a short presentation, I prefer not to use um, slides because I want to keep you present in the moment with me. But if it's a longer presentation, 30, 45 minutes, I think that for me, utilizing something visual just helps keep the audience engaged.
So with your signature talk, any of them, how much customization do you do for a given presentation of that signature talk?
When you say customization, are you meaning for the audience? How do I change
Yeah,
it?
yeah. How do you change it for a given audience?
Oh, it changes. I never tell the same story the same way.
Okay.
Never. There are elements of the story that I tell to bring home the point, but depending upon the audience, I'm going to change it. If I'm speaking in front of soldiers, I'm going to make sure that the story resonates in a military fashion to bring the audience in that they can relate to it. If I'm speaking in front of a corporate setting, that I'm going to tell the story where the words and um, the syntax of what I'm sharing speaks to being in a boardroom. I won't say in a boardroom in front of the military. I'll say as a commander, being out in the field, sharing this information at the stand-up calls. In the boardroom, in a corporate setting, I will say boardroom. I will say, being standing around at morning staff calls. Those kind of words, just those simple words changes the context to help the audience go on the journey with you. And that's what I love about speaking, because it's taking your audience on the journey with you, and the words paint the picture to have them in that setting with you, in the moment with you, to be able to feel the emotions of what is happening, to gain a better understanding of what the points you're trying to share with them.
Now, do you generally allow or include Q&A in your talks or not? And if you do, how do you control it?
Oh, that's tricky. You know that's tricky, because that can get out of hand. Even in the military, it can get really out of hand. That's where I learned how to control it. It was in the military. Yes, I do both. I do. It all depends on the client and what they'd like to have in that particular engagement. But I think having Q&A just tightens the relationship and the bond between the speaker and the audience, because they get to see who you are and get to understand the knowledge you bring and that you have outside of what you just shared in your presentation. And it gives them the confidence that you know what you're talking about, but it also, as the speaker, boosts your own confidence that you can talk off the hip and answer their questions and answer them confidently.
All right. So how do I word this question? Let me think here. Let's switch over to the marketing of yourself as a speaker, and what has worked best for you to land speaking engagements?
Networking has been very, very important. Networking is extremely important in landing speaking engagements. Word of mouth has afforded me the opportunity to have more speaking engagements than I would say any other marketing tool that I've used. Facebook, of course, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all of those things I've learned and am learning are good marketing tools, but word of mouth of someone saying that they've been at an event, that they've heard you speak, and that they would recommend you reach out to that particular speaker and get her on your next event has been the most profound and most lucrative for me in having opportunities to share.
So any networking tips for somebody who does not have a lot of experience with networking events?
Well, I would tell you, for me, Brett, I'm an introvert. I know it doesn't sound like I am, but I really am. I do well by myself. And getting out and networking it isn't my biggest forte of as far as a priority on my list of getting up in the morning and saying, yes, I'm going out here to network today. That's not what I wake up to do. But I will tell you, push yourself, push yourself to put stuff on your schedule to network. Go seek out the events, and you will surprise yourself that when you get into different forums and you begin to share with people, you see that what you offer and the solutions that you have, there are people that out there that are yearning to get what you have, the value that you bring. And when you see that someone desires what you have, it's easier to have a conversation. It's easier for me to talk to someone who's having leadership challenges. Why? Because 33 years of my life has been nothing but ingrained in leadership and strategic and critical thinking. I have solutions that I can use to help you. So that comes easy. So the tip is, talk about something that you love. Start off the conversation about something that brings comfort to you, and then let the conversation flow into allowing them to share what they need. That's how I ease myself into the different conversations when I'm in networking in environments. And it has become much easier for me.
Sure.
The other thing is, do your research. Always got to do your research of who's going to be in the room. And people love talking about themselves. Let them start off sometimes talking about them, ask questions, thought-provoking questions that allow them to talk about themselves. And then you find solutions and things in that conversation of where you might be able to help them, and then offer your products and programs that you have that can provide them value.
All right, great advice. So now's the bare your soul portion of the show, and that's
Oh no.
tell me an embarrassing moment in your speaking career where left you a little red faced at the time, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something you'd advise up and coming speakers not to do.
This was during my military career. I was doing a retirement ceremony. And in the military, excuse me, a retirement ceremony, as any ceremonies, are very sacred. And this was someone who was very near and dear to me. And in doing the retirement ceremony, because I had had so much stuff to do prior to, I didn't do my homework on really looking at the entire breadth of the individual's career to really do justice in giving a presentation and bringing in, I mean, they had family, there was well over 100 people that were there, and I had my note cards that I was talking off of, and it was going good there for a moment. And then all of a sudden, as I was walking from one side of the room to the other side, I did a little stumble and my cards fell out of my hand. And when I picked up my cards, they were all discombobulated. And that 2 minutes you talked about, it really was about 5 to 6 minutes of me just standing there, and it was just pure silence of me trying to get my cards, because I had a lot of cards. I had about 15 cards, trying to get them all back together. And I could see the face of a friend sitting there saying to me, how could you? How could you in this moment that I'll never get back not be ready for it? And from that moment on, I have made sure that any event that I go into, any ceremony, any presentation that I give, that I am rock solid ready. Because I never wanted to see that disappointment on anyone's face or feel that feeling of disgust in myself, because I was not ready, because I thought I knew it all as to why I didn't prepare myself.
So what's the
So,
solution for when you drop your cards the next time?
oh, I'll be ready. I don't even do cards no more.
All right, I gotta say, you better start numbering those cards 1, 2, 3, up to
Oh
15.
yeah, well that too. But the other solution, don't do cards. Know your people. Know who you're talking about. So now I can stand flat-footed and do a retirement ceremony for anyone that asks me to do it. I have created a system of being able to bring the family in and be able to do the speaking and pull out nuggets that are going to be of importance to the family and to the person that is retiring or being promoted. But in that moment, that taught me that has always stayed with me.
Valuable
Because
lesson learned. So
yeah,
I want to give you a couple minutes now, Twanda, to tell people a bit more about what it is that you do and how they can get involved in your world should they so choose.
well, I am, as you shared, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an author of Dare to Lead Differently, Chew on This, 16 Bites for Bold Leaders. We offer at LT3 Leadership Solutions, where I'm the CEO and founder. We offer leadership and conflict management programs where we help leaders, number one, to be better. And we do this by sharing and connecting and educating and empowering leaders with information on how to embrace and how to manage conflict so that they can increase employee retention, enhance their team synergy, and learn how to command their space in the marketplace. I'm a lecturer at Bowie State University on leadership and conflict management. So we have the skills and tools to help leaders be better. We offer programs like the Meal Principle, Motivate, Inspire, and also Get Unstuck with how to deal with conflict. And as we go through life, if you just want to be better at leading, we offer executive coaching one-on-one, because in this world, the dynamic landscape, as you know, Brett, we have to always be looking at how can we be better and how can we bring value. And that is the true essence of what LT3 Leadership Solution does. So you can reach us on www.lt3leads.com or check us out, Twanda Young, on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.
All right. Well, we'll make sure all those links are in the show notes down below this particular video. But retired Brigadier General Twanda Young, I want to thank you so much for being my guest on this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. I wish you the greatest of success with your speaking career. And to all our listeners out there, keep forging ahead, and may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.